I'm here to help you fall asleep tonight. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And tell me, where are you from and what time is it there? Now get cozy and relax. The front door closes softly behind you with the gentlest click, and immediately you're enveloped in the tender embrace of evening rain. It's not a harsh downpour, but rather a steady, gentle rainfall that has been painting the world in silver for hours now. The sound is like nature's own lullaby. Thousands of tiny droplets meeting the earth, the leaves, the rooftops in a continuous, soothing symphony that seems to wash away the day's worries with each passing moment. You pause on the doorstep, breathing in deeply. The air is clean and cool, carrying the distinctive scent of rain-washed earth and growing things. There's something almost magical about petrichor, that sweet, earthy aroma that rises when rain meets dry ground. Tonight, it mingles with the faint fragrance of wet roses from someone's garden and the crisp smell of fresh air that only comes after hours of gentle precipitation. Your umbrella opens with a soft whoosh, creating a small circle of shelter above your head. The fabric drums lightly as raindrops find their rhythm against it, a gentle percussion that will be your companion throughout this peaceful evening walk. You adjust your light jacket, feeling the soft fabric against your arms, and notice how the cool air feels refreshing against your face while the rest of you stays comfortably dry. The village street stretches before you, transformed by the rain into something from a watercolor painting. The asphalt gleams like polished stone, reflecting the warm golden light spilling from windows and the soft glow of old-fashioned street lamps. Each lamp post stands like a beacon in the gentle darkness, creating pools of amber light that dance with falling raindrops. The illumination catches each drop as it falls, turning them into tiny diamonds before they merge with the growing puddles below. Your first steps onto the wet pavement create the softest splash, barely audible above the constant whisper of rain, but somehow deeply satisfying. There's something wonderfully meditative about walking in the rain, about being out in weather that keeps most people indoors. The world feels more intimate somehow, more peaceful, as if the rain has created a gentle barrier between you and the usual bustle of daily life. The village around you breathes with quiet contentment. This is the kind of place where time moves more slowly, where the pace of life matches the gentle rhythm of seasons changing and rain falling. Stone cottages line the narrow street, their windows glowing warmly from within. Behind lace curtains, you catch glimpses of cozy interiors, a reading lamp beside a comfortable chair, the flicker of a television, the warm yellow light of a kitchen where someone might be preparing a simple evening meal. Gardens border each home, and even in the rain, especially in the rain, they seem to pulse with life. The roses look deeper in color, their petals heavy with collected moisture. Lavender bushes release their calming fragrance more intensely in the humid air. Small trees bend gracefully under the weight of water on their leaves, creating natural archways over garden paths and adding to the sense that you're walking through a living, breathing artwork. Your breathing naturally slows as you begin to walk, matching the unhurried pace that seems appropriate for this gentle evening. There's no destination in mind, no schedule to keep, just the simple pleasure of moving through this rain-blessed village while the world settles into the peaceful rhythm of a wet evening. The air fills your lungs with coolness and the fresh scent of growing things, and with each exhale, you feel the day's tensions dissolving like salt in water. The rain continues its steady patter. On your umbrella, on the leaves overhead, on the cobblestones and garden gates and window boxes full of rain-happy flowers. It's a sound that seems to slow time itself, creating a bubble of tranquility that moves with you as you begin your leisurely journey through these quiet, lamplit streets where every corner promises new gentle discoveries and every step brings deeper peace. As you round the gentle curve in the lane, the village square opens before you like a scene from a peaceful dream. The central space is modest and perfectly proportioned, surrounded by buildings that have witnessed centuries of quiet village life. Tonight, in the soft rain, everything seems to glow with an inner warmth that makes you pause to simply absorb the beauty of this simple, timeless place. The square's centerpiece is an old stone fountain that has been singing its gentle water song for generations. Even without the rain, it would provide a soothing soundtrack. But tonight the rainfall creates layers of sound, the fountain's steady trickle mixing with raindrops striking its wide stone basin, creating ripples that catch and scatter the light from surrounding buildings. Water overflows gently from the fountain's edges, adding to the network of tiny streams that trace their way across the old cobblestones toward the drains that have served this square faithfully through countless rainy evenings just like this one. Your footsteps change their song as you move from the smooth asphalt of the lane onto the cobblestones of the square. Each stone, worn smooth by generations of feet, gleams wetly in the lamplight. The irregular surface creates dozens of small puddles, each one a perfect mirror reflecting fragments of the scene around you. A piece of golden window light here, a section of gray sky there. The dark silhouette of your umbrella moving steadily across this mosaic of reflected images. Around the square's perimeter, shops and cafes sleep peacefully behind rain-streaked windows. The bakery's sign creaks gently in the light breeze that accompanies the rain, and though it's closed for the evening, you can almost imagine the lingering scent of fresh bread and pastries that filled the air here just hours ago. Next to it, a small bookshop displays novels and poetry collections in its window, the spines barely visible through glass decorated with trickling raindrops that blur the titles into mysterious, artistic shapes. The village pub sits at the far corner of the square, its windows glowing warmly yellow-orange. Through the rain-touched glass, you can see the soft movement of a few evening patrons, their voices creating a gentle murmur that blends perfectly with the rain's constant whisper. A hanging sign outside the pub sways slightly. Not violently, but with the easy movement of something perfectly at home in this weather, as if it has been dancing this same gentle dance with countless rain showers over the decades. Flower boxes beneath shop windows overflow with rain-happy blooms. Petunias and geraniums seem to drink in the moisture gratefully, their colors appearing richer and more vibrant in the wet air. Small streams of water cascade from the boxes, creating tiny waterfalls that add their voices to the square's symphony of gentle water sounds. The stone planters around the fountain base support small shrubs whose leaves glisten with collected raindrops, each leaf holding dozens of perfect water beads that tremble slightly in the mild breeze. An old wooden bench near the fountain invites contemplation, its surface darkened with moisture but somehow still welcoming, even though you won't sit. This is a walking meditation. After all, there's something comforting about its presence, about imagining all the people who have sat there over the years, perhaps on evenings just like this, watching the rain and listening to the fountain and feeling the same sense of peace that fills you now. The air here in the square feels different, slightly cooler, perhaps, with the open space allowing the rain-freshened breeze to move more freely. You breathe deeply, tasting the moisture in the air, feeling it settle in your lungs like a gentle blessing. The sound of your own breathing mingles with the rainfall and fountain song, creating a personal rhythm that matches your slow, measured steps across the cobblestones. Above you, Old trees that border parts of the square create a natural canopy, their leaves heavy with rain. Occasionally, when a slight breeze stirs the branches, they release small showers of collected water that patter against your umbrella with a different rhythm than the steady rainfall. Brief, musical cascades that remind you of wind chimes made of water and leaves. The square holds you gently in its peaceful embrace as you prepare to continue your journey. But you take one more moment to simply stand and absorb this perfect scene of village tranquility painted in rain and lamplight. Leaving the square behind, you turn onto a narrow lane that the locals call Garden Lane, and immediately you understand why. This quiet street seems to exist primarily as a showcase for the village's most devoted gardeners, and tonight, in the gentle rain, their efforts create a corridor of natural beauty that feels almost magical in its serene abundance. High stone walls line both sides of the lane, but these aren't forbidding barriers. Instead, they serve as supports for an incredible variety of climbing plants that cascade down in green waterfalls, softened and made even more lush by the steady rainfall. Ivy drapes itself in thick curtains, its leaves so dark they're almost black in the lamplight, each one outlined with a thin film of moisture that makes the entire mass seem to shimmer with life. Clematis vines weave through the ivy, their purple and white flowers glowing like small stars in the gentle darkness. The rain has awakened every scent in these gardens, creating an invisible bouquet that changes with each step you take. Here, the sweet fragrance of honeysuckle grows stronger as you pass beneath an archway where the vines have completely covered an old garden gate. The flowers release their perfume more generously in the humid air, and you find yourself breathing more slowly, more deeply, allowing the natural aromatherapy to work its calming magic on your mind and body. Your umbrella brushes against overhanging branches occasionally, sending small showers of collected rainwater cascading to the ground with soft pattering sounds. Each contact creates a brief, gentle percussion that adds variety to the constant background symphony of rainfall. The lane is narrow enough that you feel embraced by all this growing abundance, as if you're walking through a living tunnel made of leaves and flowers and the gentle music of water finding its way from sky to earth. Cottage gardens peek through gaps in the stone walls and over lower sections where wooden gates stand slightly ajar, offering glimpses into private worlds of cultivated beauty. In one garden, you catch sight of a small greenhouse, its glass panels fogged with humidity and glowing softly from a light left on inside. The warm illumination suggests someone tending to seedlings or perhaps just enjoying the sound of rain on glass. A sound that must be particularly beautiful from inside that little plant sanctuary. The lane's surface here is different, not cobblestones like the square, but old brick laid in a herringbone pattern that creates interesting textures underfoot. Centuries of weather have worn the brick smooth, and tonight they shine with a deep red-brown color that's almost burgundy in the streetlight. Water runs between the bricks in tiny rivers, following the subtle slopes and curves that direct rainwater toward hidden drains that have been managing the lane's drainage for longer than anyone can remember. Ancient street lamps stand at comfortable intervals, their light creating pools of warmth that illuminate the falling rain and cast dancing shadows of leaves and flowers on the wet brick surface. Between these pools of light, gentle shadows provide visual rest, creating a rhythm of illumination and softness that matches your walking pace perfectly. The interplay of light and shadow, enhanced by the rain's distorting effect, transforms the lane into something that feels almost dreamlike. You notice how the rain affects everything differently here in this plant-rich environment. Large hostas in the gardens hold water in their cupped leaves like natural bird baths. Ferns release tiny sprays of moisture when brushed by the breeze. Rose bushes heavy with rain-weighted blooms seem to nod in greeting as you pass. The sound of water dripping from leaf to leaf creates countless tiny percussion instruments, each plant contributing its own notes to the lane's gentle symphony. Your pace naturally slows even more as you absorb all these details. There's something about walking through such concentrated natural beauty that makes hurrying seem not just unnecessary but almost disrespectful. This is a place for contemplation, for allowing your mind to quiet and your senses to fully engage with the immediate experience of rain and gardens and the simple pleasure of moving slowly through a world transformed by gentle weather. The air feels softer here, filtered through all these leaves and flowers, and carrying scents that seem to change with every breath. Jasmine, wet earth, growing things, and underneath it all, that fresh, clean smell that belongs uniquely to rain-washed air on a peaceful evening. The lane curves gently to the right, and as you follow its meandering path, the silhouette of the village church emerges through the rain like something from a watercolor painting. The ancient stone building sits on a slight rise, surrounded by its peaceful graveyard, and tonight the entire scene is softened by the veil of steady rainfall that makes everything appear slightly ethereal, as if you're viewing it through a lens that filters out harshness and leaves only beauty and tranquility. The church itself is old, centuries old, with stones that have weathered countless storms and gentle rains like tonight's. The tower rises modest but dignified against the gray evening sky, its clock face glowing softly yellow, marking time as it has for generations of villagers. Rain streams down the ancient walls in patterns that follow the stone's natural contours, creating temporary waterfalls that catch the light from the church's few illuminated windows and the nearby street lamps. You pause at the low stone wall that separates the graveyard from the lane, resting one hand on the wet stone while your umbrella continues its gentle percussion concert above your head. The graveyard stretches away from the church in terraced levels, following the natural slope of the hill. Even in the diminished light of the rainy evening, you can see how beautifully maintained it is. Not manicured like a suburban lawn, but cared for with the kind of attention that comes from genuine respect and love. Ancient yew trees stand sentinel among the graves, their dark, dense foliage creating natural umbrellas that redirect the rainfall into concentrated streams. These trees have been here longer than the church itself, silent witnesses to centuries of village life, and tonight they seem particularly majestic in the rain. Water runs down their massive trunks in slow rivers, pooling at their bases where small wildflowers, those hardy varieties that thrive in shade and moisture, have created natural gardens that seem to glow softly in the subdued light. The headstones vary in age and style, from weathered medieval stones whose inscriptions have been softened to illegibility by centuries of weather, to more recent memorials with crisp lettering that the rain outlines in temporary shadows. Each stone tells a story, and tonight the rain seems to be reading those stories, tracing the carved letters and decorative elements with gentle fingers of water. Some stones lean slightly, given over to the gradual settling that comes with age, while others stand straight and true, all of them united in their peaceful dignity. Gravel paths wind between the graves, and you can hear the soft crunch splash of your footsteps as you enter through the wooden gate that stands perpetually open. A welcoming gesture that speaks to the village's sense of community and continuity. The paths are edged with small stones that serve as gentle guides, but tonight they're mostly hidden under the shallow streams of rainwater that follow the gravel's natural drainage patterns toward the lower areas of the graveyard. The sound environment here is particularly beautiful. The rain patters differently on various surfaces. Soft, and barely audible as it strikes the grass, more musical as it hits the stone monuments, creating tiny bell-like notes when it strikes the metal plaques and decorative elements. The yew trees add their own percussion as water drips from branch to branch, and somewhere in the distance, you can hear the gentle gurgle of water flowing through the old drainage systems that keep the graveyard from flooding even during the heaviest rains. Small gardens flourish throughout the cemetery. Not formal plantings, but the kind of gentle rewilding that happens when nature is allowed to express itself within a framework of care. Primroses cluster at the base of headstones, their pale yellow flowers seeming to generate their own light in the gray evening. Forget-me-nots create blue carpets in shaded areas, and wild roses have claimed sections of the older stone wall, their thorny canes heavy with rain and dotted with simple, perfect blooms. The church windows glow warmly from within, suggesting that someone is inside, perhaps the vicar preparing for tomorrow's service, or a parishioner who has come to sit quietly in the nave and listen to the rain on the ancient roof. The light is warm and welcoming, and even though you're not going inside tonight, there's comfort in knowing that this centuries-old sanctuary continues its quiet service to the community, offering shelter and peace to anyone who needs it. Your breathing has slowed to match the contemplative pace that such places naturally inspire, and you find yourself standing still for several moments, simply absorbing the profound tranquility of this rain-blessed sanctuary where past and present exist in perfect, peaceful harmony. Beyond the graveyard, a narrow footpath leads away from the church toward the sound of running water. The mill stream that has powered village life for centuries and now provides one of the most soothing soundscapes you could imagine on a rainy evening. The path is paved with flat stones, fitted together so skillfully that even after decades of use, they remain level and safe for walking, though tonight they're slick with rain and reflecting fragments of light from the occasional lamppost that marks the way. The transition from the formal paths of the graveyard to this more natural walkway feels like stepping into a different world, one where human influence blends seamlessly with the landscape rather than imposing upon it. Old oak trees line the path, their massive trunks creating a sense of timeless stability, their branches reaching across to form a partial canopy that modifies the rainfall into larger, more intermittent drops that strike your umbrella with deeper, more resonant sounds than the constant patter of rain in open areas. As you walk, the sound of the stream grows gradually stronger, adding its voice to the rain symphony. It's not a rushing torrent, but rather a steady, musical flow that speaks of reliable springs and careful engineering that has kept the water running along its appointed course through all seasons and weather conditions. The sound is deeply soothing, the kind of white noise that has lulled countless generations to sleep in the cottages that at the stream's banks. The path curves gently, following the natural contours of the land, and suddenly the stream comes into view. Even in the dim light of the rainy evening, you can see how the water moves, smooth and dark, reflecting the sky and the overhanging branches, with small eddies and currents that catch the light from the strategically placed lamps that illuminate this peaceful walkway. The stream is perhaps 10 feet wide, bordered by stone walls that are old enough to have developed a patina of moss and small ferns that thrive in the constant moisture. Rain falling directly onto the stream's surface creates thousands of tiny circles that expand and overlap, turning the water into a constantly changing pattern of ripples and reflections. It's mesmerizing to watch. Each raindrop creates its own perfect circle that grows until it meets others, creating interference patterns that seem almost musical in their mathematical precision. The visual rhythm matches the auditory rhythm of rain and flowing water, creating a multimedia meditation that seems designed to slow your thoughts and deepen your sense of peace. The mill wheel itself comes into view as you round another gentle curve. It's an old overshot wheel, probably built in the 18th century, and though it's no longer used for grinding grain, it's been lovingly maintained as both a historical monument and a functional piece of the stream's ecosystem. Tonight, with rain adding to the stream's volume, the wheel turns slowly but steadily, its wooden paddles catching the water and releasing it in a pattern of splashes and cascades that adds another layer to the evening's water music. Wooden benches placed at scenic points along the path invite contemplation, though tonight they're too wet for sitting. Still, their presence adds to the sense that this is a place where people come to think, to rest, to listen to the water, and watch the seasons change. You can imagine sunny afternoons when these benches are filled with readers or couples sharing quiet conversations. But tonight, they simply stand as patient witnesses to your solitary journey through this watery paradise. The air here is particularly fresh and clean, charged with negative ions from the moving water and rain, creating that feeling of clarity and well-being that people often experience near streams and waterfalls. Each breath feels purifying, as if the very air is washing your lungs clean while the visual beauty and soothing sounds work their magic on your mind and spirit. Cattails and water irises grow along the stream's margins, their leaves heavy with collected rainwater that occasionally releases in small cascades when the breeze stirs them. The plants seem to thrive in this environment, and tonight they add vertical elements to the scene that break up the horizontal lines of the stream and path, creating visual interest that keeps your eyes engaged without overwhelming your senses. The mill stream path leads to one of the village's most charming features, a small covered bridge that spans the water at its narrowest point. This isn't a grand structure, but rather the kind of intimate, human-scaled architecture that speaks to generations of practical craftsmanship and community pride. Tonight, in the gentle rain, it appears through the mist like a scene from a storybook, its weathered wooden sides and slate roof creating a perfect shelter where you can pause and fully immerse yourself in the symphony of water sounds that surround you. As you approach the bridge, your footsteps change from the soft splash of rain-soaked stone to the hollow, musical sound of wooden planks that have been seasoned by decades of weather and use. The bridge is perhaps 30 feet long, just wide enough for two people to pass comfortably, with low wooden railings on either side that are worn smooth by countless hands that have rested there while their owners watch the stream flow beneath. Inside the bridge, the sound environment transforms completely. The rain on the slate roof creates a steady drumming that's more enclosed and intimate than the open-air patter you've been hearing throughout your walk. It's like being inside a natural percussion instrument, with each raindrop contributing to a rhythm that seems both random and purposeful. The acoustics of the covered space amplify and modify every sound. Your footsteps become more resonant, your breathing more noticeable, and the stream's voice seems to rise up through the wooden planks to surround you with its liquid music. You pause in the center of the bridge, hands resting on the rain-darkened wooden railing, and look down at the stream flowing beneath. The water is perhaps 6 feet below, moving with that steady, unhurried pace that has characterized this waterway for centuries. Even in the dim light, you can see how the current creates patterns around the stone supports of the bridge, gentle eddies and swirls that seem to dance in the reflected light from the few lamps that illuminate the bridge's entrances. The rain falling directly onto the stream's surface creates a texture that's constantly changing, millions of tiny impacts that turn the water into a living canvas of concentric circles and intersecting ripples. From this elevated vantage point, you can see how the patterns spread and merge, creating a visual rhythm that perfectly complements the auditory symphony of rain on roof, water on stone, and the gentle creaking of old wood responding to changes in humidity and temperature. Windows along the bridge's sides, really just openings in the wooden walls, frame views of the stream and its banks like a series of living paintings. Through one opening, you can see upstream toward the mill wheel, still turning slowly in the enhanced flow created by the evening's rainfall. Through another, you look downstream toward where the water disappears around a bend lined with willows whose drooping branches trail in the current like nature's own wind chimes, stirring gently in the breeze that follows the water's course. The bridge's interior is simple but beautiful in its functionality. The wooden beams overhead show the marks of the craftsmen who shaped them, and time has given the entire structure a patina that speaks to its integration with the natural environment. Small spiders have built webs in the corners, and these too are works of art tonight, decorated with tiny water droplets that make them visible as delicate lace patterns suspended in the dim light. You realize that your breathing has synchronized with the bridge's gentle rhythm. The almost imperceptible swaying that comes from water flowing beneath and rain falling above, the subtle movements that mark this structure as a living part of the landscape rather than an imposition upon it. The sensation is deeply calming, like being held gently by the earth itself while the rain provides a natural sound bath that seems designed to wash away tension and worry. The air inside the bridge carries the sense of wet wood, flowing water, and rain-washed air, creating an aromatherapy blend that enhances the meditative quality of this pause in your evening journey. Everything here invites stillness, contemplation, and the simple appreciation of being present in a moment of perfect peace. Beyond the covered bridge, the path continues alongside the stream as it widens gradually into what the villagers call the river. Though it remains modest and gentle, perhaps 20 feet across at its broadest point. The walkway here is made of compacted gravel mixed with small river stones, creating a surface that provides good footing even in the rain, while producing that satisfying soft crunch underfoot that speaks of careful maintenance and generations of peaceful evening strolls just like yours. The character of the landscape begins to shift subtly as you follow this waterside path. Where the village proper featured stone walls and cultivated gardens, here the boundary between human habitation and natural countryside becomes softer, more organic. Hedgerows replace formal walls, their mixed plantings of hawthorn, elderberry, and wild rose creating living barriers that seem to breathe with the rhythm of the rain. Tonight, these hedges release their fragrances more generously in the humid air. The sweet scent of elderflower, the green smell of hawthorn leaves, and underneath it all, the earthy aroma of soil drinking deeply after a dry spell. The river moves with lazy contentment beside the path, its surface broken by the gentle rings of raindrops and the occasional rise of a fish taking insects from the water's surface. The sound is hypnotic, a liquid murmur that seems to carry conversations from upstream, though of course it's just the water finding its way around stones and over small falls created by the natural settling of the riverbed over centuries of flow. This is the kind of sound that has inspired countless people to sit by rivers and streams simply to think, or perhaps more accurately, to stop thinking and simply be present with the eternal flow of water toward the sea. Willow trees line the opposite bank, their long, trailing branches creating curtains of green that touch the water's surface and sway gently in the breeze that follows the river's course. Tonight, heavy with rain, these branches seem even more graceful, their movements creating ripples that spread across the water in expanding circles. The interplay between the falling rain, the swaying branches, and the flowing current creates patterns of light and shadow on the water's surface that seem almost alive, a constantly changing mandala of natural beauty that draws your attention without demanding it. Your umbrella continues its gentle percussion concert, but here by the river, the sound seems to blend more seamlessly with the natural water music all around you. Occasionally, you pass under the spreading branches of an oak or ash tree that overhangs the path, and during these moments, the rain's rhythm changes to the deeper, more irregular patter of water that has gathered on leaves before falling. These brief variations in the rain's song add texture to your walking meditation, keeping your senses gently engaged without overwhelming them. The path curves with the natural meanders of the river, and around each bend, new vistas open up. Here, a small island covered with rushes and wild iris creates a division in the current that results in two streams of different speeds. Their reunion downstream, creating small eddies and swirls that catch the light from the occasional lamppost. There, an old stone wall emerges from the hedgerow, perhaps the remains of a field boundary from centuries past, now softened by moss and small ferns that have found homes in the cracks between stones. The air here feels different than it did in the village proper, cleaner somehow, with that particular freshness that comes from being near moving water and growing things. Each breath carries moisture that seems to settle in your lungs like a gentle blessing, and you find yourself breathing more slowly, more deeply, allowing the natural rhythm of the evening to guide not just your walking pace, but your entire physiological response to this peaceful environment. Small wooden benches appear at intervals along the path, positioned at points where the view is particularly lovely or where the sound of the water is most soothing. Tonight they stand empty, their surfaces darkened with rain, but their presence adds to the sense that this is a place valued by the community, a shared resource that provides beauty and tranquility to anyone who takes the time to seek it out. You can imagine warm summer evenings when these benches host couples sharing quiet conversations or solitary readers enjoying the combination of literature and natural beauty. The gravel beneath your feet occasionally gives way to wooden boardwalks where the path crosses small tributaries that feed into the main river. These brief changes in surface create variations in the sound of your footsteps while providing glimpses of the engineering that keeps this path accessible in all weather and seasons. As the river path winds through its gentle curves, following the water's ancient course through the landscape, you begin to hear a new sound mixing with the familiar symphony of rain and flowing water. The distinctive splash and gurgle of water flowing through a more constrained space. Around the next bend, the source becomes clear. An old stone bridge spans the river, its three graceful arches creating a structure that seems to have grown from the landscape itself rather than being imposed upon it. This bridge is older than the covered wooden bridge you passed earlier, much older, with stones that were cut and fitted by masons who learned their craft in an age when such structures were built to last for centuries. Tonight, with rain streaming down its weathered surfaces and the river flowing steadily beneath its arches, it presents a scene of such timeless beauty that you find yourself slowing your pace even further, reluctant to rush past such architectural poetry made visible in stone and water. The bridge rises in a gentle arc that speaks to the mathematical precision of its medieval builders, who understood not just the practical requirements of spanning water, but also the aesthetic principles that make a structure pleasing to the eye across centuries of changing tastes. The stones are local limestone, now darkened with age and moisture, their surface is home to small colonies of moss and lichen that add texture and color while testament to the bridge's integration with the natural environment. As you approach the bridge's base, you can see how the centuries have settled it into the landscape. The abutments seem to emerge naturally from the riverbanks, and the area around the bridge has developed its own microecosystem. Ferns have found homes in the spaces between stones, and small wildflowers, those hardy varieties that thrive in the humid environment created by flowing water and stone, create tiny gardens in the crevices and ledges where wind and rain have deposited enough soil to support plant life. The sound environment here is particularly rich and complex. The river, constrained by the bridge's arches, moves more quickly and creates more turbulence, resulting in a fuller, more varied water song. There are gurgles and splashes, the musical tinkle of water dropping from the bridge's underside where condensation has gathered, and the deeper resonance of water flowing through stone channels that have been polished smooth by centuries of current. Rain falling on the bridge's broad stone surfaces adds another percussion line to this natural orchestra, while the river below provides a constant bass note that ties all the other sounds together. You walk up onto the bridge itself, your footsteps changing from the soft crunch of gravel to the solid, reassuring sound of heels on ancient stone. The bridge's width is generous enough for a horse and cart, the primary traffic it was designed to accommodate, which means there's plenty of room for you to walk comfortably while still having space to pause at the stone parapet and look down at the water flowing beneath. From this elevated position, you can see how the river spreads and contracts as it moves through the bridge's three arches. The central arch carries the main current, while the side arches handle overflow during high water periods and provide homes for the small creatures that live at the interface between water and stone. Tonight, with the rain adding to the river's volume, all three arches are carrying water, creating a triple harmony of liquid music that rises up through the stone structure to surround you with sound. The bridge's parapets are topped with broad, flat stones that were clearly designed to serve as resting places for travelers, and despite the rain, there's something appealing about the idea of pausing here. The stone is dark with moisture, but it's also solid and permanent in a way that offers comfort. You rest your free hand on the wet stone, feeling its coolness and the slight vibration that comes from water flowing beneath, connecting you physically to this ancient crossing point. Looking upstream and downstream from this vantage point, you can see how the river landscape unfolds in both directions. Upstream, the water comes around a gentle bend lined with willows, their reflection broken by the rain, but still visible as wavering green columns in the dark water. Downstream, the river straightens for a distance before disappearing around another curve, its surface catching fragments of light from distant sources and holding them briefly before the current carries them away toward the sea. The rain continues its steady patter on your umbrella and on the bridge's stone surfaces, creating a rhythm that seems to slow time itself and invite deeper contemplation of this scene of enduring beauty. Beyond the stone bridge, the character of your evening walk shifts once again as the path leads away from the river and into the open countryside that surrounds the village. Here, a well-maintained footpath crosses through meadowland that during daylight hours would be alive with wildflowers and butterflies, but tonight presents a different kind of beauty, the subtle, peaceful landscape of rain-washed grassland dotted with ancient oak trees and bordered by hedgerows that have defined field boundaries for generations. The path itself is a testament to the gentle traffic it receives, wide enough for comfortable walking but not so broad as to intrude harshly on the natural landscape. It's made of the same compacted gravel and stone mixture you've been walking on, but here it seems even more integrated with its surroundings. following the natural contours of the land in a way that suggests it evolved organically from centuries of people choosing the easiest and most pleasant route across these peaceful fields. The meadow stretches away on both sides, and though the rain and evening light limit visibility, you can sense the openness after the more enclosed feeling of the village streets and riverside path. The grass is longer here, not the carefully maintained turf of village greens, but the natural mixed grasses and wildflowers that characterize traditional English meadowland. Tonight, heavy with rain, every blade and stem seems to droop gracefully, creating a landscape that appears almost fluid, as if the meadow itself is participating in the evening's water theme. Your umbrella becomes even more essential here in the open ground, as there's less natural shelter from overhanging branches. The rain strikes the fabric with a more consistent rhythm now, and you become more aware of the sound as it provides a steady accompaniment to your footsteps and breathing. There's something particularly peaceful about walking through open countryside in gentle rain, a sense of being part of the landscape rather than separate from it, of participating in the ancient cycle of water and earth and growing things. Ancient oak trees stand scattered throughout the meadow like natural monuments, each one an individual presence with its own character and history. These trees have witnessed centuries of village life, of seasons changing, of countless walkers crossing these fields in all kinds of weather. Tonight, their massive trunks appear almost black against the gray sky, and their spreading branches create dark canopies that modify the rainfall into larger, more intermittent drops. The sound when you pass beneath these natural umbrellas changes from the steady patter on your umbrella to the deeper, more musical sound of water collecting on leaves before falling in larger drops. The hedgerows that border the meadow are works of art in themselves, not formal plantings, but the kind of mixed, natural barriers that develop over time when hawthorn, blackthorn, elder, and wild rose are allowed to grow together in the way that best suits the local soil and climate. Tonight, these hedges seem to glow with their own inner light, every leaf outlined with moisture that catches and reflects what little light penetrates the gray evening. The effect is subtle but magical, as if the entire landscape has been touched with silver. Occasionally, gaps in the hedgerows reveal glimpses of neighboring fields, some given over to pasture where sheep or cattle would normally graze, others showing the geometric patterns of cultivated crops. All of these agricultural landscapes are softened tonight by the rain, their edges blurred and their colors muted to create a scene that seems painted in watercolors rather than existing in sharp-edged reality. The air here in the open meadow is particularly fresh and clean, with that distinctive scent that comes from rain falling on grassland, a green, growing smell that seems to carry the essence of photosynthesis in soil and all the invisible processes by which the earth renews itself. Each breath feels purifying, and you find yourself breathing more slowly and deeply, allowing this natural aromatherapy to work its calming effects on both body and mind. Your pace here naturally becomes more leisurely, partly because the open landscape invites contemplation, and partly because the gentle rhythm of rain and wind and your own footsteps creates a natural meditation that seems designed to slow down time and expand the present moment into something rich and full and completely satisfying. The meadow path leads gradually toward a line of trees that marks the beginning of the woodland that forms the natural boundary of the village's agricultural land. As you approach this transition zone, the character of the evening landscape begins to shift once again, and you can sense the different quality of air and sound that comes from being near a substantial body of trees. The woodland edge is not an abrupt boundary, but rather a gentle transition where individual trees give way gradually to a more continuous canopy, where meadow flowers blend with woodland plants, and where the open sky begins to be filtered through layers of leaves and branches. The first trees you encounter are those hardy species that thrive at the interface between field and forest, ash trees with their compound leaves that create dappled patterns of light and shadow, field maples that have been shaped by decades of wind into graceful, spreading forms, and the occasional wild cherry whose bark catches the dim light with an almost metallic sheen. Tonight, all of these trees seem to pulse with life, their leaves heavy with collected rainwater that falls in irregular but musical patterns as the gentle breeze stirs the branches. The path here begins to feel more intimate, more enclosed, as the trees gradually close in on both sides. The gravel surface continues but becomes slightly softer underfoot, as if the presence of so many trees has created a different relationship between the path and the earth it crosses. Fallen leaves from previous seasons have been incorporated into the walking surface, creating a layer of organic material that muffles your footsteps and adds to the sense that you're entering a more natural, less human-dominated environment. The sound environment begins to change subtly as you move deeper into the woodland edge. The open-air patter of rain on your umbrella continues, but now it's joined by the more complex rhythms of water dripping from branch to branch, leaf to leaf, in the irregular but somehow purposeful patterns that characterize rain falling through a forest canopy. There are tiny splashes as collected water is released from leaf clusters, gentle pattering sounds as individual drops find their way down through the layers of vegetation, and underneath it all, the soft whisper of rain on fallen leaves that carpets the forest floor. Wildflowers that prefer the partial shade of woodland edges create splashes of subtle color along the path. Wood anemones with their simple white petals, wild garlic with its delicate flowers and distinctive scent that becomes more noticeable in the humid air, and patches of bluebells that even in the dim evening light seem to glow with their own inner luminescence. These plants seem to thrive in the rain, their colors appearing richer and more saturated, their fragrances released more generously into the moist air. The trees themselves become more varied as you move deeper into the transitional zone. Oak trees, some of them clearly ancient, create cathedral-like spaces beneath their spreading branches. Beech trees contribute their own smooth-barked elegance and the distinctive sound their leaves make when stirred by the breeze, a soft rustling that's different from the sound of oak or ash leaves. Hazel trees create dense thickets in some areas, their multiple stems and broad leaves creating natural shelters where other woodland plants flourish in the filtered light and consistent moisture. Your breathing naturally adjusts to the different air quality here at the woodland edge. The atmosphere feels thicker, richer with oxygen from all the photosynthesizing plants, and charged with the negative ions that are generated by moving water and growing vegetation. Each breath seems more nourishing, more satisfying, as if the very air has been purified and enhanced by its passage through this living system of trees and plants and moisture. The umbrella above your head occasionally brushes against low-hanging branches, sending small showers of collected rainwater cascading down in brief, musical cascades that add variety to the steady rhythm of the rainfall. These moments of contact with the forest canopy create a sense of intimate connection with the woodland, as if the trees are greeting you gently as you pass beneath their protective embrace. Moss begins to appear more frequently now, on tree trunks, on fallen logs, on the stones that edge the path. In the rain, these moss colonies seem particularly vibrant, There are various shades of green, creating a palette that ranges from the palest jade to deep forest emerald. The moss acts like a natural sponge, absorbing rainwater and releasing it slowly, contributing to the complex water cycle that keeps the woodland ecosystem healthy and balanced. The path continues to wind gently through this transitional landscape, each step taking you deeper into the embrace of the forest while the rain continues its gentle benediction on this peaceful corner of the world. The path now leads you fully into the heart of the woodland, where the canopy overhead creates a living roof that transforms the rainfall into something entirely different from the open-air experience you've enjoyed throughout most of your evening walk. Here, under the protective embrace of oak and beech and ash trees that have been growing for decades, or even centuries, the rain becomes a more intimate, more varied experience. A symphony of water finding its way through layers of leaves and branches and patterns that seem both random and purposeful. The forest floor beneath your feet has changed character completely. Instead of gravel or stone, you're walking on a carpet of fallen leaves accumulated over many seasons. Oak leaves with their distinctive lobe shapes, beech leaves like small leather fans, and the compound leaves of ash trees that break down more quickly and contribute to the rich humus that feeds the woodland ecosystem. This natural carpet provides perfect footing even in wet conditions, and your footsteps make only the softest whisper as you move through this cathedral of trees. Above you, the canopy creates a complex architecture of branches and leaves that catches and redirects the rainfall in fascinating ways. Water collects on the broad leaves of the larger trees, gathers into small streams that run along branches, and eventually falls in drops that range from tiny mist-like droplets to substantial splashes that make soft percussion sounds as they strike the leaf litter. The randomness of these larger drops creates an irregular but soothing rhythm that seems to invite deeper relaxation and contemplation. The air here in the deep woods has a different quality entirely, thicker, richer, more complex in its mixture of scents and negative ions. You can smell the earth itself, that fundamental aroma of soil and decomposing leaves and root systems that speaks to the basic processes of life and renewal. There's the green scent of chlorophyll and photosynthesis, the mushroom smell of fungi breaking down organic matter, and underneath it all, that clean, fresh smell of rain-washed air filtered through countless leaves and branches. Your umbrella becomes less necessary here, as the natural canopy provides substantial protection from the rain, but you keep it open anyway, enjoying the way it catches the larger drops that make their way down through the tree cover. The sound of rain on the umbrella fabric becomes more intermittent, but somehow more musical, as individual drops create their own rhythms rather than the steady patter you experienced in more open areas. Ancient trees dominate this landscape. Oaks whose trunks require several people holding hands to encircle, beech trees whose smooth bark seems to glow with its own inner light even in the forest's dim conditions, and the occasional massive ash tree whose compound leaves create particularly complex patterns of light and shadow. These elder trees have a presence that goes beyond their mere physical dimensions. They seem to anchor the entire forest ecosystem, providing the stability and continuity that allows all the other woodland life to flourish. Fallen logs create natural benches and boundaries throughout the forest, and these deadfall trees are ecosystems in their own right. Moss covers them in thick, soft blankets of green that seem to pulse with life in the humid air. Fungi of various types, some shelf-like brackets, others small toadstools, contribute their own colors and textures to these natural sculptures. Ferns have found homes in the rich soil that collects around fallen trees, their fronds unfurling in patterns that seem designed by nature's own aesthetic sense. The path through the woods is less defined here than it was in the more open areas, but it's still clearly present. A gentle depression in the forest floor where countless feet have chosen the easiest route through the trees. It winds between the massive trunks and around natural obstacles in a way that feels organic, as if the path has evolved naturally rather than being imposed on the landscape. Wildlife signs are everywhere, though the animals themselves remain hidden during your evening passage. Squirrel drays high in the oak trees, badger paths that intersect with your walking route, and the small holes and burrows that indicate a thriving ecosystem of smaller creatures that call this woodland home. Tonight, they're probably sheltering in their various refuges, waiting out the rain in the same patient way that forest creatures have been doing for millennia. The peace here is profound and different from any you've experienced during your walk. Deeper, more ancient, connected to rhythms and cycles that extend far beyond human time scales. After walking for several minutes through the dense canopy of the deep woods, the trees begin to open up gradually, and you find yourself approaching a natural clearing where the forest creates its own intimate meadow, surrounded by tall trees but open to the sky. This circular space, perhaps 50 feet across, feels like nature's own outdoor room. A place where the woodland ecosystem has created a perfect balance between shelter and openness, between the intimacy of the forest and the expansiveness of sky. The transition from forest to clearing is gradual and beautiful. The massive trees that surround the space create natural walls, but walls with spaces between them where paths enter and exit the clearing from various directions. These sentinel trees, mostly ancient oaks with some magnificent beeches, seem to have arranged themselves in a rough circle that provides protection from wind while allowing rain and light to reach the center of the space. Tonight, their trunks appear almost black against the gray sky, and their spreading branches create a natural gallery that frames the open space with living architecture. Here in the clearing, the rain returns to its full presence. After the filtered, intermittent drops of the deep forest, stepping into this open space feels like emerging into a different world of weather. The rainfall strikes your umbrella with renewed consistency, creating the familiar percussion that has accompanied most of your evening walk. But here, surrounded by the protective presence of the great trees, the rain feels even more gentle and welcoming than it did in the completely open meadowland earlier in your journey. The floor of the clearing is carpeted with grass that's longer and more natural than village lawns, but shorter and more open than the deep woodland areas you've just passed through. Wildflowers to this natural meadow, some that prefer the partial shade at the clearing's edges, others that thrive in the more open conditions at the center. Tonight, heavy with rain, these flowers seem to glow softly in the subdued light, their colors muted but somehow more intense, as if the moisture has concentrated their essential beauty. A few fallen logs provide natural seating around the clearing's perimeter, and though they're too wet for sitting tonight, their presence adds to the sense that this is a place where people have always come to rest, to think, to enjoy the particular peace that comes from being in a forest clearing during gentle weather. These logs, like the fallen trees you encountered in the deep woods, have become ecosystems in their own right, supporting moss and fungi and providing homes for countless small creatures. The sound environment in the clearing is particularly rich and layered. The rain falling directly from the sky creates its steady patter on your umbrella and whispers as it strikes the grass and wildflowers. But this direct rainfall is accompanied by the more complex rhythms of water dripping from the surrounding trees, each species contributing its own percussion as collected moisture finds its way from branch to leaf to ground. The combination creates a natural symphony that seems to fill the entire space with gentle, sleep-inducing sound. The air in the clearing feels different from both the open meadowland and the deep forest. It has the freshness and negative ion charge of the woodland, but also the expansiveness and clarity that comes from open sky. Each breath seems to carry the best of both environments, and you find yourself breathing even more slowly and deeply, allowing this perfect air to work its calming effects on your entire system. A small stream enters the clearing at one edge, meandering across the open space in gentle curves before disappearing into the forest on the opposite side. This waterway is narrow, perhaps 3 feet wide, but it adds its voice to the clearing's sound environment with gentle gurgles and the soft splash of water flowing over small stones. The stream's banks support their own specialized plant communities, rushes and water-loving flowers that create linear gardens along the water's course. The clearing feels like a perfect pause point in your evening journey, a place where all the elements you've encountered so far come together in harmony. Forest and meadow, water and earth, shelter and openness, the intimate and the expansive, all balanced in this natural amphitheater where the rain continues its gentle benediction on a landscape that seems designed specifically for peace and contemplation. Standing in the center of this clearing, surrounded by guardian trees and serenaded by the complex music of rain and flowing water, you feel completely present in the moment, completely at peace with the world and your place in it. Following a barely visible path that branches off from the main clearing, you discover one of the forest's most enchanting secrets, a small pond nestled among the trees like a natural mirror reflecting the gray evening sky. The pond is perhaps 30 feet across, perfectly oval in shape, and so still that despite the rain falling on its surface, it maintains an almost magical quality of serenity that seems to deepen the peace of this already tranquil woodland setting. The approach to the pond is through a grove of silver birch trees, their white bark seeming to glow with an inner light even in the subdued evening atmosphere. These trees are younger than the massive oaks and beeches that dominate the deeper forest, and their more delicate branches create a different kind of canopy -1 that allows more light to filter through while still providing a sense of shelter and intimacy. The rain falling through birch leaves creates a particularly gentle sound, softer and more musical than the deeper tones produced by the broader leaves of the forest giants. The pond's edge is defined by a natural border of rushes and water-loving plants that have created their own specialized ecosystem in this wet environment. Cattails stand sentinel at the water's edge, their brown seed heads heavy with moisture, while water irises add splashes of subtle color with their sword-like leaves and delicate flowers. The entire perimeter of the pond is softened by these plants, creating a natural transition between the water and the surrounding woodland that feels organic and unforced. The surface of the pond tells its own story of the evening's gentle rainfall. Each raindrop creates perfect circles that expand outward until they meet and interact with others, forming patterns that seem to pulse with mathematical precision. The visual effect is mesmerizing, a constantly changing mandala of intersecting circles that creates a sense of movement and life while maintaining the pond's essential stillness. It's like watching nature's own meditation in action, a visual demonstration of how individual elements can create beauty through their interactions. Several fallen logs extend partially into the water, creating natural jetties where someone could sit and watch the water life during daylight hours. Tonight, these logs appear as dark shapes just below the surface, their presence adding to the pond's sense of depth and mystery. Moss covers the portions of the logs that remain above water, creating soft, green cushions that seem to invite contemplation despite their current saturation with rainwater. The sound environment around the pond is uniquely peaceful. The rain falling directly on the water's surface creates a soft, continuous whisper that's different from the more percussive sounds of rain on solid surfaces. This gentle liquid patter combines with the occasional plop of larger drops falling from the surrounding trees and the almost inaudible movement of water life beneath the surface. Fish rise occasionally to take insects from the water, creating small rings that join the pattern of raindrop circles in the pond's ongoing visual symphony. The air around the pond feels particularly fresh and humid, charged with the negative ions that moving water creates. There's a coolness here that's refreshing without being cold, and the scents are those of clean water and healthy aquatic vegetation. You can smell the pond's essential cleanliness. This is living water, part of the forest's circulatory system, not stagnant, but gently connected to the underground streams and springs that feed the woodland ecosystem. Water lilies float on the pond's surface, their broad leaves creating natural platforms that collect rainwater and reflect light in interesting ways. The lilies' flowers are closed for the evening, but their presence adds to the sense that this is a complete ecosystem, a place where water plants and fish and insects and the countless microscopic life forms that make up a healthy pond environment all exist in natural balance. Your umbrella continues its gentle percussion above your head, but here by the pond, the sound seems to blend perfectly with the water's own music. The rain falling on the pond's surface creates a visual and auditory meditation that seems designed to slow your thoughts and deepen your sense of connection with the natural world. Standing at the edge of this hidden pond, surrounded by the protective presence of the birch grove and serenaded by the gentle sounds of rain on water, you feel as if you've discovered a secret sanctuary where time moves differently and peace comes naturally. Near the pond's edge, a collection of large stones creates a natural seating area that has clearly been used by countless woodland visitors over the years. These stones, some as large as armchairs, are covered with thick cushions of moss that have grown in the humid environment created by the nearby water. Tonight, in the gentle rain, the moss seems particularly vibrant, its various shades of green creating a natural palette that ranges from pale jade to deep emerald, each variety responding differently to the moisture and creating its own unique texture and color. The stones themselves are ancient, probably deposited here by glacial action millennia ago, then shaped by centuries of weather into smooth, rounded forms that seem designed for human comfort. Some are perfectly sized for sitting, others for resting your feet, and a few larger ones create natural tables where someone might place a book or a cup of tea during a woodland picnic. Tonight, with their moss coverings saturated with rainwater, they appear almost luminous in the dim light, as if they're generating their own soft glow. You approach these moss-covered stones carefully, not wanting to disturb the delicate ecosystem they support. The moss isn't just decoration, it's a complex community of tiny plants that work together to create and maintain the microenvironment around these stones. In the rain, you can see how the moss acts like a natural sponge, absorbing water and releasing it slowly, helping to maintain the steady humidity that keeps this corner of the forest particularly lush and green. The largest stone provides a natural backrest, its moss-covered surface curved in a way that seems designed for contemplation. Though too wet for sitting tonight, you can easily imagine how comfortable it would be during drier weather. and how many people might have sat here over the years, watching the pond's surface and listening to the sounds of the forest. The stone's position offers a perfect view of the water while providing a sense of being embraced by the surrounding trees. Around the base of these stones, the forest floor is particularly rich and diverse. Ferns unfurl their fronds in the humid microclimate, creating natural bouquets of delicate greenery. Small wildflowers that prefer shade and moisture have found homes in the spaces between stones, with sorrel with its delicate white flowers, wild garlic with its distinctive scent, and patches of moss campion that add tiny spots of color to the predominantly green landscape. The rain patters gently on the moss-covered stones, creating a soft, muffled sound that's different from the sharper percussion of rain on hard surfaces. The moss absorbs much of the sound, creating a natural acoustic dampening that adds to the sense of peace and intimacy around these natural seats. Each stone seems to have its own slightly different sound as the rain strikes it, creating a subtle polyrhythm that blends with the gentle whisper of rain on the pond's surface. Small streams of water run down the sides of the larger stones, creating temporary waterfalls that add their voices to the evening's water symphony. These miniature cascades catch the light in interesting ways, creating brief sparkles and flashes that draw the eye and add visual interest to the scene. The water follows the natural contours of the stones, finding the easiest path downward and creating patterns that seem both random and purposeful. The moss itself is fascinating to observe in the rain. Different species respond to moisture in different ways. Some seem to plump up and become more three-dimensional. Others appear to release tiny spores that create brief, misty clouds around the stones. The overall effect is of a living carpet that responds dynamically to the weather, changing its appearance and behavior as conditions change around it. Standing among these moss-covered stones, with the rain falling gently around you and the pond reflecting the gray sky nearby, you feel connected to the ancient rhythms of the forest. These stones have been here for thousands of years, and the moss has been growing on them for decades, or perhaps centuries. Tonight, you're part of that continuity, sharing this peaceful moment with countless other visitors who have found solace and beauty in this simple arrangement of stone and moss and water. Beyond the pond, following what appears to be a deer path through the undergrowth, you discover the source of the water that feeds this hidden sanctuary. A small woodland stream that bubbles up from underground springs and wends its way through the forest with the unhurried contentment of water that has been following the same course for centuries. This stream is different from the river you followed earlier in your evening walk. Smaller, more intimate, more secret, as if it belongs entirely to the forest and its creatures. The stream is perhaps 3 feet wide, shallow enough that you can see the bottom clearly even in the dim evening light. The water moves over a bed of smooth stones, fallen leaves, and patches of sand that have been deposited by countless seasonal floods and dry periods. Tonight, with the rain adding to its volume, the stream runs fuller than usual, creating a more complex symphony of water sounds as it flows around obstacles and over small falls created by the natural arrangement of stones and fallen branches. The banks of the stream are lined with the kinds of plants that thrive in the constant moisture of such environments. Ferns cascade down from higher ground, their fronds creating natural curtains that filter the light and add to the sense of being in a secret, hidden place. Wild mint grows in patches along the water's edge, its distinctive scent becoming more noticeable in the humid air, while clusters of forget-me-nots add tiny spots of blue that seem to glow in the forest's subdued light. You follow the stream upstream, walking carefully on the natural path that parallels the water's course. The sound of the flowing water is immediately soothing, not the broader, more powerful sound of the river, but something more intimate and personal, like nature's own white noise machine designed specifically for relaxation and peace. The water's voice changes as it encounters different obstacles, gurgling softly as it flows around stones, chuckling as it drops over small ledges, whispering as it runs through straighter sections where the bottom is smooth and sandy. The rain falling directly on the stream's surface creates thousands of tiny circles that expand and interact with the water's current, creating visual patterns that seem to flow downstream, like liquid music made visible. The effect is hypnotic, each raindrop creating its own perfect circle before being carried away by the current. The entire surface of the stream becoming a constantly changing canvas of intersecting ripples and waves. Ancient trees lean over the stream at various points, their branches creating natural bridges that small woodland creatures undoubtedly use for crossing. These overhanging branches also modify the rainfall, creating areas where the water is protected from direct precipitation and others where collected rainwater falls in larger, more dramatic drops. The variation in rain intensity along the stream's course creates a natural rhythm that matches the water's own musical flow. Small pools have formed where the stream has carved out deeper sections, and in these quieter waters, you can see the reflection of the gray sky and overhanging branches. These pools serve as windows into the stream's underwater world. You can see how fallen leaves collect in the quieter areas, how small fish dart between the stones, and how the entire streambed serves as habitat for countless forms of life that thrive in this clean, flowing water environment. The stream's banks show evidence of the wildlife that depends on this water source. Small paths lead down to the water's edge where deer and other woodland creatures come to drink. The mud at these access points is soft and marked with tracks, though tonight's rain is gradually washing away the evidence of recent visitors. These animal highways remind you that you're a guest in this ecosystem, sharing the evening with countless other creatures who call this woodland home. Moss-covered logs span the stream at several points, creating natural bridges that someone could use to cross the water. These fallen trees have become ecosystems in their own right, supporting gardens of moss and ferns while providing structure that helps to control the stream's flow and create the pools and eddies that make the water's song so complex and beautiful. The air around the stream carries the fresh, clean scent of moving water and the green smell of thriving vegetation. Each breath feels purifying, as if the constant presence of clean, flowing water and oxygen-generating plants has created a natural air purification system that cleanses both the atmosphere and your respiratory system. Following the stream deeper into the forest, you come upon a sight that takes your breath away even in the subdued light of the rainy evening. A grove of ancient oak trees, some of them easily several hundred years old, their massive trunks and spreading branches creating a natural cathedral that speaks to the enduring power and majesty of the forest ecosystem. These trees are the elders of the woodland, the survivors who have weathered centuries of storms and seasons, and tonight they stand as silent witnesses to your peaceful passage through their domain. The largest of these oaks is truly magnificent. Its trunk so massive that it would take at least 6 people holding hands to encircle it, its bark deeply furrowed with the distinctive patterns that speak to centuries of growth and adaptation. This tree's canopy spreads in all directions, creating a natural umbrella that extends far beyond its trunk and provides shelter for a significant area of the forest floor. Tonight, with rain collecting on its thousands of leaves, the tree seems to be conducting its own percussion orchestra, with water dripping from different levels of branches, creating a complex polyrhythm that fills the entire grove with gentle music. The other ancient oaks in the grove are nearly as impressive, their trunks ranging from merely large to absolutely enormous, their branches interweaving overhead to create a living roof that has been developing for longer than human memory. Some of these trees show the scars of ancient lightning strikes, their trunks split and healed over decades of continued growth. Others bear the marks of long-ago branch breaks, where winter storms or simply the weight of time has removed limbs that have since been replaced by new growth reaching toward the light. The forest floor beneath these ancient trees is unlike anywhere else you've walked tonight. The soil here is rich with centuries of accumulated leaf litter, creating a soft, spongy surface that seems to absorb sound and create a sense of hushed reverence. Your footsteps make almost no sound as you walk among these giants, and even the rain seems quieter here, filtered through so many layers of leaves and branches that it reaches the ground in gentle whispers rather than distinct drops. Massive root systems spread across the ground, creating natural sculptures that rise and fall like frozen waves. Some of these roots are as thick as smaller trees, and they create a landscape of gentle hills and valleys that adds to the cathedral-like feeling of the grove. Moss covers many of these exposed roots, creating soft green carpets that seem to glow with their own inner light in the humid air. The interaction between the ancient wood and the living moss creates a visual demonstration of the forest cycles of growth, death, and renewal. The air in the ancient oak grove has a different quality than anywhere else you've experienced tonight. It feels thicker, richer, more charged with the oxygen that these massive trees have been producing for centuries. There's also a sense of age and wisdom in the atmosphere, as if the trees themselves have accumulated not just years but knowledge, patience, and a deep understanding of the natural cycles that govern forest life. Breathing this air feels like receiving a blessing from the forest itself. Hollow spaces in some of the ancient trunks speak to the trees' roles as apartment buildings for woodland creatures. These natural cavities, created by decades of slow decay and excavation by various animals, provide homes for owls, squirrels, and countless smaller creatures. Tonight, these hollows appear as dark, mysterious openings that suggest the rich life that continues even when the forest seems quiet and empty to human visitors. The rain's interaction with these ancient trees is particularly beautiful to observe. Water runs down the deeply furrowed bark in patterns that seem to have been carved by centuries of similar rainfall, creating temporary rivers and waterfalls that highlight the natural sculpture of each trunk. The sound of water on bark varies from tree to tree, each one contributing its own voice to the grove's gentle symphony based on the unique texture and pattern of its surface. Fungi of various types have found homes on the ancient trees and in the rich soil around their roots. Shelf fungi create natural brackets on the trunks, while smaller mushrooms and toadstools emerge from the soil and fallen logs. These fungi play crucial roles in the forest ecosystem, breaking down dead material and helping to create the rich soil that feeds the continuing cycle of growth and renewal. Standing among these ancient oaks, surrounded by the gentle sound of rain filtered through centuries-old branches, you feel connected to something much larger and more enduring than your individual existence, the continuing story of the forest itself. Written in rings of growth and seasons of change. In a small clearing within the ancient oak grove, you discover one of nature's most whimsical and mysterious phenomena. A fairy ring of mushrooms that forms a perfect circle perhaps 12 feet in diameter on the forest floor. These small, pale mushrooms seem to glow with their own inner light in the dim evening atmosphere, creating a natural mandala that speaks to the hidden magic that dwells in old forests. Tonight, With rain beating on their caps and stems, they appear particularly ethereal, as if they might disappear if you look away and then back again. The mushrooms themselves are small and delicate, probably honey mushrooms or a similar species that thrives in the rich soil created by centuries of fallen leaves and organic matter. Each one is perfectly formed, with caps that curve gracefully and stems that stand straight despite their apparent fragility. The rain has given them a crystalline quality, with water droplets caught on their surfaces creating tiny prisms that refract what little light filters through the canopy above. The fairy ring phenomenon is caused by the underground fungal network that spreads outward from a central point, creating the circular pattern that has inspired folklore and wonder for centuries. Tonight, this scientific explanation seems less important than the simple beauty of the pattern itself. The way these small, pale mushrooms have arranged themselves in perfect symmetry, creating a natural circle that draws your eye and invites contemplation of the hidden connections that exist beneath the visible surface of the forest. Inside the fairy ring, the grass grows differently, more lush and green, fed by the nutrients that the fungal network provides. This creates a natural carpet that seems almost manicured compared to the more random growth patterns of the surrounding forest floor. The contrast is subtle but noticeable, as if the fairy ring has created its own microenvironment with slightly different rules and rhythms than the rest of the woodland. The sound of rain on the mushroom caps creates the tiniest of percussion instruments. Each drop striking the delicate surfaces makes an almost inaudible plink that adds to the grove's complex symphony. These minute sounds are so quiet that you have to strain to hear them, but once you've identified them, they become part of the evening's layered music, contributing their own gentle notes to the composition that surrounds you. Ancient folklore would have you believe that such rings are the dancing grounds of woodland spirits, places where the boundaries between the visible and invisible worlds become thin. Tonight, in the gentle rain with mist beginning to rise from the warm earth, it's easy to understand how such beliefs developed. There's something undeniably magical about this perfect circle of mushrooms, something that speaks to patterns and connections that exist beyond ordinary perception. The air around the fairy ring carries the distinctive earthy scent that mushrooms contribute to forest environments. A rich, organic smell that speaks to the processes of decomposition and renewal that keep the woodland ecosystem healthy. This scent becomes more pronounced in the humid air, creating an olfactory experience that grounds you in the immediate reality of the forest while simultaneously suggesting the mysterious processes that occur beneath the surface. You walk slowly around the perimeter of the fairy ring, careful not to disturb the delicate mushrooms or the ecosystem they represent. From different angles, the ring appears to change slightly, sometimes perfectly circular, sometimes more elliptical, depending on your perspective and the way the light filters through the trees. The effect is subtle but enchanting, as if the fairy ring is a living mandala that shifts and changes while maintaining its essential form. The rain continues to fall gently on the mushrooms and the surrounding forest floor, creating a soft, whispered percussion that seems to emanate from the fairy ring itself. Combined with the larger sounds of rain on oak leaves overhead and the distant murmur of the stream, this creates a sense of being surrounded by gentle music that seems to emerge from the earth itself, a natural symphony that speaks to the deep connections between all living things in the forest ecosystem. As you continue your peaceful journey through the ancient woodland, following paths that seem to reveal themselves naturally as you walk, you emerge into another clearing where something magical is happening. Above the canopy, the clouds have begun to thin slightly, and through the gentle rain, the moon makes its first appearance of the evening. not full, but substantial enough to cast a silvery light that transforms the entire woodland scene into something that seems to exist between reality and dream. This clearing is larger than the one where you discovered the fairy ring, perhaps 60 feet across, and it sits in a natural depression that creates the sense of being in a shallow, tree-lined bowl. The moonlight, filtered through the continuing rain, creates an ethereal atmosphere where every surface seems to glow with its own inner luminescence. The raindrops themselves become visible as they fall through the moonbeams, creating curtains of liquid silver that shimmer and dance in the gentle evening breeze. The grass in this moonlit clearing is longer and more natural than the managed lawns of the village, but it's not wild meadow grass either. Instead, it's the kind of mixed grasses and wildflowers that flourish in woodland clearings, soft, diverse, and perfectly adapted to the dappled light conditions that exist in spaces surrounded by trees. Tonight, heavy with rain and touched by moonlight, every blade and stem seems to be outlined in silver, creating a carpet that appears to be woven from moonbeams and moisture. Ancient trees ring the clearing like benevolent guardians, their massive trunks dark silhouettes against the lighter sky. The moonlight catches the texture of their bark, highlighting the deep furrows and natural patterns that speak to centuries of growth and weather. Some of these trees lean slightly inward, their branches reaching across the clearing's edge to create natural archways that frame views of the interior space. The overall effect is of a natural amphitheater, a place where the forest has created its own performance space. The rain continues to fall, but here in the moonlight, it takes on an entirely different character. Instead of the gray, subdued precipitation of the earlier evening, the rain now appears as streams of liquid light, each drop catching and reflecting the moon's glow before disappearing into the grass or striking the leaves of the surrounding trees. The visual effect is mesmerizing. You find yourself standing still, simply watching the rain fall through the moonbeams like nature's own light show. The sound environment in the moonlit clearing is particularly beautiful. The rain's percussion on your umbrella continues, but now it's joined by the musical patter of raindrops on leaves that are illuminated by moonlight, creating a visual accompaniment to the auditory experience. You can actually see some of the larger drops as they strike the leaves, creating brief sparkles of light that seem to dance in rhythm with the rain's natural beat. A small stream enters the clearing at one edge, meandering across the open space in lazy curves before disappearing into the forest on the opposite side. The moonlight transforms this water feature into a ribbon of liquid silver that seems to flow with light as much as with water. The sound of the stream adds its gentle voice to the clearing's symphony, creating a bass note that anchors all the higher-pitched sounds of rain on vegetation. The air in the moonlit clearing feels different, cooler, perhaps, with the open sky allowing more heat to radiate upward, but also more charged with the kind of energy that moonlight seems to bring to natural spaces. There's a sense of magic in the atmosphere, a feeling that this is a place where the ordinary rules of daytime existence are suspended and something more mysterious and beautiful takes their place. Wildflowers scattered through the clearing appear almost luminous in the combination of moonlight and rain. White flowers seem to glow with their own inner light, while colored blooms appear muted but somehow more intense, as if the moonlight has concentrated their essential beauty rather than washing it out. The rain beads on petals and leaves, creating countless tiny mirrors that reflect the moon's image in miniature. Standing in the center of this moonlit clearing, with rain falling gently around you and the ancient trees standing guard at the perimeter, you feel as if you've stepped into a fairy tale. a place where the natural world reveals its most magical aspects to those patient enough to seek them out on quiet, rainy evenings. Leaving the quiet embrace of the lantern-lit garden behind, you return to the cobbled path with a deeper sense of calm. The air feels cooler now, the mist thickening slightly, wrapping the edges of the buildings in soft, shifting veils. The steady rain continues, a gentle, constant presence above and around you. Ahead, a narrow alley draws your eye, tucked between two tall, weathered buildings, its entrance partly hidden by an overgrown trellis heavy with ivy. The alleyway beckons, its confines intimate, a passage seldom traveled. You step toward it with slow, deliberate movements, the rain whispering against your umbrella. As you cross the threshold, the space seems to close around you. The walls here are close-set, their rough stone surfaces beaded with moisture. Faint rivulets of water trace their way downward, carving temporary paths through moss and lichen. The cobbles beneath your feet are uneven, worn smooth by time. Small puddles gather in the low spots, their surfaces alive with the constant patter of falling rain. Your footsteps echo softly, each one a quiet counterpoint to the gentle symphony of water. Overhead, wooden shutters line the upper floors of the buildings, most drawn tight against the night. Their aged surfaces gleam darkly in the dim light, rivulets running along their edges. Some hang slightly askew, their hinges long since loosened by weather and time. You pause beneath one such window, gaze drawn to a faint glow beyond the cracks in the shutters, perhaps a single lamp left burning within, casting a thin line of gold against the damp wood. The sight is both comforting and mysterious, a small suggestion of life within the hushed village. The alley continues, its narrow course winding gently between the leaning structures. Overhead, trailing vines reach downward, their leaves slick and gleaming. You brush past them with a gentle motion, droplets falling in your wake. The air here carries a different weight, thicker, saturated with the scent of damp stone, old wood, and the faint metallic tang of iron. The rain, though steady, feels softer in this enclosed space, its sound dampened by the close walls. You slow your pace even further, breath deepening in the cool, heavy air. The alley invites reflection, its quiet embrace a place of pause, of presence. Each step becomes more deliberate, each movement grounded in the immediate moment. Somewhere ahead, the alley opens again, the faint glow of a distant lantern just visible through the mist. But for now, you linger within the narrow space, savoring its unique atmosphere, the intimate sounds, the shifting scents, the close comfort of stone and rain. In this small world of shadows and whispers, time seems to dissolve. The present moment expands, filling the senses with its quiet richness. You breathe in, slow and deep. You breathe out, tension falling away like rain from a leaf. And when at last you move once more, it is with a sense of ease and quiet joy, your footsteps carrying you onward through the rain-wrapped heart of the village. The narrow alley gives way to a wider street, the buildings here spaced farther apart, allowing the rain to fall more freely. The air feels fresher, cooler, touched with the faint scent of wet earth and flowering shrubs. Ahead, a soft glow draws your attention, the large window of a small tea shop, its panes misted with condensation. The sign above the door sways gently in the breeze, its lettering faded but still legible, the steeping leaf. You approach with measured steps, umbrella tilted to shield against the rain's persistent touch. The window's glow spills outward, casting a warm, inviting light upon the slick cobblestones. You pause before it, gaze drawn to the scene within. Inside, the The shop is a haven of warmth and comfort. Shelves lined with tins of loose-leaf tea, their labels hand-lettered with care. A wooden counter adorned with ceramic teapots and delicate cups. Soft cushions upon benches, their colors muted beneath the lamplight. Steam curls upward from a kettle on the back counter, its coils weaving slowly through the air. The scent of brewed tea, earthy, floral, rich, seems to drift even through the glass, mingling with the cool breath of the rain-soaked night. You linger there, watching. A lone figure moves behind the counter, their motion slow and practiced. A cup is lifted, poured, placed with gentle precision. Across the room, a patron sits with book in hand, a teacup steaming before them. The pages turn with unhurried grace, each movement an echo of the shop's deep stillness. The scene holds you, draws you deeper into its quiet embrace. For a moment, you imagine stepping inside, the warmth enveloping you, the air rich with the scent of tea and old wood, the gentle murmur of quiet voices and clinking china. But there is no need to cross that threshold tonight. The comfort of the scene is enough, observed from the rain-silvered street, a tableau of peace and calm. You stand for several long breaths, body still, breath slow. The rain's rhythm upon your umbrella merges with the soft sounds from within. A gentle harmony that fills the space between. At last, with a small, contented smile, you turn once more to the street. The glow of the tea shop lingers behind you, a beacon of warmth in the cool, rain-washed night. Umbrella steady, breath even, you continue your walk, steps light upon the cobbles, senses attuned to the quiet wonders yet to be discovered in the village's gentle embrace. Beyond the glowing tea shop window, the street narrows again, bending softly between two long rows of terraced buildings. The steady patter of rain deepens in tone as it reaches this quieter stretch, where the stone walls seem to hold and amplify each drop's gentle rhythm. You walk slowly, umbrella angled, breath flowing in time with your steps. The cool, rain-sweetened air fills your lungs with each inhale, and with each exhale, the subtle tension in your shoulders melts further away. Ahead, the path widens unexpectedly, opening into a small courtyard tucked between the surrounding buildings. The space feels hidden, a place one might easily miss if not wandering slowly, without destination. You step into it, footsteps soft upon the glistening stones. The courtyard is bordered on three sides by tall facades of aged stone and timber, their windows shuttered and dark at this hour. The fourth side is marked by a low stone wall, beyond which a narrow garden descends into shadows. A single wrought iron lamp stands near the courtyard's center, its golden glow softened by a faint halo of mist. Rain falls in fine silver threads through the circle of light, each droplet catching and refracting the warmth before vanishing into the dark. You move to the center of the space, your steps slow and deliberate. The rain here feels softer somehow, more intimate, its rhythm a quiet murmur against the stillness. A wooden bench rests against one wall, beneath a climbing lattice heavy with vines. You approach it and run your fingers lightly along the smooth, rain-slick surface. The coolness of the wood seeps into your touch, grounding you further in the moment. You seat yourself carefully, folding the umbrella to rest beside you, its ribs dripping quietly onto the stones below. The air is rich with scent, wet stone, moss, faint traces of old wood and iron. Somewhere nearby, the fragrant hint of herbs drifts from an unseen window box, rosemary or perhaps sage. You settle more deeply into the bench, breath slowing. Each inhale draws the cool, rain-fresh air into your chest. Each exhale releases it in a soft, unhurried stream. Time stretches here. You observe the courtyard in detail. The rivulets tracing their way down the stone walls, the delicate shimmer of droplets along iron railings, the slow ripple of puddles stirred by falling rain. A soft creak from above draws your gaze. One shutter, not fully latched, rocks gently in the breeze. The sound a slow, rhythmic counterpart to the rain. The hush of the courtyard wraps around you, a cocoon of quiet presence. You feel no urgency to move, no impulse to hurry onward. The village can wait. The rain will continue. This moment is complete in itself. Breath deepens again. Shoulders soften further. The beat of your heart slows to match the gentle pulse of the rain. When at last you rise, slowly, without haste, it is with a sense of profound ease. You retrieve the umbrella, the motion fluid and unhurried. A deep breath, a final glance at the rain-silvered courtyard. And then, umbrella open once more, you step softly from the quiet space, your walk continuing beneath the rain-washed eaves of the village night. The cobbled lane bends again, drawing you toward a broad stone archway that spans the street ahead. Its form is old but sturdy, the keystone marked with a date long weathered by rain and time. You approach at an easy pace, umbrella steady, the rain continuing its soft song upon the fabric above. The archway looms taller as you near it, framing the lane beyond like a window into another space. As you pass beneath it, your footsteps echo softly against the stone. The air beneath the arch is cooler, touched with the faint scent of aged mortar and damp earth. A small iron lantern hangs from a central bracket above, its flame steady, casting intricate shadows upon the arched ceiling. You pause beneath it for a moment, listening. The sound of rain shifts subtly here, becoming a muted patter, more distant, as though filtered through layers of stone and shadow. Your breath moves easily, in and out, the stillness of the space encouraging a deeper, more deliberate rhythm. Beyond the arch, the lane opens into a narrow avenue lined with wrought iron lanterns. Their glow forms a soft procession into the misted distance, each pool of light shimmering upon the rain-slicked stones. You begin along this path, pace slow and measured. The lanterns feel like silent companions, their warmth a steady presence in the cool embrace of the night. As you walk, your senses sharpen to the subtle variations in light and sound. The soft splash of rain into shallow puddles, the fine hiss of droplets against metal and glass, the glistening trails left by unseen creatures crossing the stones, the faint scent of lilac from a garden unseen beyond the walls. You pause beneath one lantern, its light warm upon your face. The rain falls in a delicate curtain around you, each drop a tiny prism catching the glow. You watch them fall for several breaths, body still, mind quiet. In this moment, there is no elsewhere, no before, no after. Only this space, this breath, this rain-washed world unfolding with gentle grace. You move again, deeper along the lantern-lit lane, each step a quiet meditation, each breath a tether to the present. The rhythm of the walk, of the rain, of your own body, all woven into a seamless whole. And as the path curves once more, disappearing softly into mist and shadow, you follow, a gentle traveler in the heart of the rain-soaked night. The lantern-lit lane curves gently, leading you toward the soft sound of water ahead, a different tone than the rain itself, more melodic, rhythmic. The sound draws you forward, your footsteps light upon the slick stones. Soon, the street opens once more, revealing a small square nestled between the surrounding buildings. At its heart stands a weathered stone fountain, its wide basin brimming with rainwater. The fountain is simple in design, A low circular pool encircled by carved stone figures worn smooth by countless seasons. At its center rises a column crowned with a sculpted bowl from which water would normally flow. But tonight, it is the rain alone that fills it, each drop contributing to the quiet symphony of falling water. You approach slowly, umbrella angled as you near the fountain's edge. The surface of the water shivers with each new drop, concentric ripples spreading outward to meet and merge. Reflections of the surrounding lamps shimmer upon the surface, their light distorted by the ever-changing dance of rain. You pause there, gaze drawn to the subtle play of movement upon water and stone. The scent of wet stone and mineral-rich water rises faintly, mingling with the cool breath of the rain-soaked night. Lowering the umbrella slightly, you allow a few drops to strike your upturned palm. The sensation is delicate, fleeting, a tangible connection to the moment. You watch the droplets gather and run down your fingers, glistening in the dim light. A low stone bench curves along one edge of the square, its surface dark with moisture. You cross to it with unhurried steps, settling upon the cool stone with a soft exhale. The umbrella rests across your lap, angled to shield but not obscure your view. From this vantage, the fountain becomes a focal point, a quiet meditation in stone and water. You trace the ripples with your gaze, following their outward flow. Each breath slows in response, your body softening, muscles unwinding with the gentle rhythm. The surrounding square is hushed. Shuttered windows look down from above, their glass darkened, their inhabitants tucked away in warmth and sleep. The rain continues its steady song upon the rooftops, upon the stones, upon the fountain itself. You linger in this space, breath deepening. Each inhale draws in the rain-cooled air. Each exhale releases it in a long, unhurried stream. The simple act of sitting, of watching, of breathing becomes its own quiet ritual. Time drifts unmarked. The moment expands, filled with the subtle beauty of rain and reflection. You feel no need to move, no pull to continue, only the soft contentment of presence. Yet when at last you rise, it is with a profound ease. The fountain's gentle song lingers in your mind, a soothing refrain. Umbrella lifted once more, breath even. You return to the lane, step slow and steady as you continue your walk through the rain-wrapped village. The lane narrows again beyond the square, its course winding between tall stone facades. The mist has thickened here, softening the edges of the world, blurring the lines between stone and shadow. The rain falls as a fine, steady veil, its sound a gentle constant above your steady breath. As you walk, a wrought iron gate comes into view along one side of the lane. Its surface is adorned with curling vines of metalwork, now slick with rain, gleaming softly beneath a nearby lantern. Beyond the gate, the faint outlines of a garden can be seen, low hedges, the dark forms of trees, the pale shimmer of rain upon leaves. You approach with measured steps, umbrella tilting to better view the space beyond. The gate is slightly ajar, its latch unfastened. With a slow, deliberate motion, you ease it open, the hinges creaking softly beneath your touch. The garden within feels untouched, secret, a small sanctuary held close within the heart of the village. The path is narrow, bordered by low stone walls and overgrown with moss. Raindrops bead upon every surface, their shimmer lending the space an almost dreamlike quality. You step inside, the air immediately cooler, heavier with the scent of damp earth and foliage. The sounds of the street fade, replaced by the softer symphony of rain upon leaves, upon petals, upon earth. Your movements slow further as you follow the winding path. Ferns unfurl beside you, their fronds heavy with moisture. Low branches arch overhead, forming a natural canopy that filters the rain into a delicate patter. Each breath draws in the garden's layered fragrance, the sweet scent of wet flowers, the rich aroma of loam, the faint tang of rain-kissed stone. The sensation is grounding, centering, drawing your awareness fully into the present moment. You pause beside a small stone basin, its surface filled to the brim with rainwater. Ripples dance across it with each falling drop, reflections of the surrounding greenery shifting and merging in the dim light. You reach out, fingertips trailing lightly across the surface, the water cool and smooth beneath your touch. Time slows here. The garden holds a timeless quality, untouched by the rush of the outside world. You breathe more deeply, more easily, each exhale a release, each inhale a renewal. You follow the path deeper still, drawn not by curiosity, but by the simple pleasure of walking, of being present within the rain-washed space. At last, the path curves gently back toward the gate. You pause there, one final breath drawn in the cool, fragrant air. With a soft touch, you ease the gate closed behind you, its quiet latch a fitting farewell. Returning to the lane, you lift the umbrella once more, the rain's familiar rhythm welcoming you back. Your steps resume, slow and steady, as you continue your evening walk through the village's rain-silvered heart. The lane narrows once more, guiding you between two rows of tall, timber-framed buildings. Their upper stories lean inward, eaves nearly touching high above. The space beneath forms a natural corridor, sheltered from the rain's full touch. You step beneath it, your movement slow, deliberate. The sound of the rain shifts, no longer a steady fall upon your umbrella, but a softer, more distant rhythm echoing upon the roofs above. Drips fall here and there from worn beams and gutter spouts, their timing irregular, each drop a singular note in the symphony of the night. You lower the umbrella slightly, its surface still beaded with water, each droplet catching the muted light. The air beneath the covered passageway feels different, cooler, more still, carrying the scent of aged wood and stone. Your footsteps sound more distinct here, each contact with the flagstones beneath producing a soft, measured echo. The walls on either side bear the marks of long years, weathered timbers dark with age, small nooks and alcoves tucked into their depths. Ivy clings where it can, its leaves slick with rain that drifts inward with each shifting breeze. You walk slowly, breath deepening. The constriction of the space draws your awareness inward, attuning you to the subtle details of the moment. The faint creak of beams overhead, the irregular splash of a drop striking a worn stone, the cool draft that brushes past your skin. The covered passage feels timeless, a place between spaces untouched by haste. You pass beneath a low archway where the beams drop closer still, the ceiling only a short reach above. Here, the scent of the wood deepens, mingling with the metallic tang of damp iron fixtures. You pause beneath this arch, allowing your gaze to trace the textures of the timbers, the fine filigree of moss growing in sheltered crevices. Your breath slows further, each inhale filling your chest with cool, rain-scented air, each exhale a soft release. A small, wrought iron lantern hangs here, its glow faint but steady. The light casts elongated shadows upon the walls, their forms swaying gently with the breeze. You watch the interplay of light and movement, a slow dance that mirrors the unhurried rhythm of your breath. Time seems to fold upon itself within this sheltered space. The passageway holds its own quiet world, a space apart, suspended within the rain-washed night. When at last you move again, it is with the same deliberate ease. Your footsteps carry you onward through the narrowing lane, past weathered doors and shuttered windows, each one bearing silent witness to the long history of the place. The passageway begins to widen once more, its overhead beams giving way to the open sky beyond. The sound of the rain swells gradually, reasserting its presence. You lift the umbrella again, its fabric welcoming the familiar patter of falling drops. With breath slow and steady, you step from the covered space, returning to the open lane, the village awaiting, rain-soaked and shimmering beneath the watchful glow of distant lanterns. The lane curves once more, revealing a narrow stone stairway tucked between two high garden walls. Its worn steps descend gently, slick with rain, their surfaces dappled with moss and lichen. You pause at the top, gaze following the stairs' slow spiral downward. The rain song changes here, a softer cadence as it strikes the enclosing walls, punctuated by the irregular drip of water from overhanging ivy. The space feels secluded, intimate. The stairway offers no clear view of what lies below, its descent curving out of sight. You are drawn to it not by curiosity, but by the simple invitation to move, to explore the quiet depths of the village night. With a measured breath, you begin your descent. Each step is deliberate, your footfalls light upon the damp stone. The umbrella shields you from the rain's full touch, though scattered droplets still find their way inward, cool against your skin. The walls on either side rise close, their rough stone surfaces beaded with moisture. Small ferns cling to cracks and crevices, their delicate fronds shimmering with rain. You run your free hand lightly along the stone, the texture cool and grounding beneath your fingers. Your breath deepens in the enclosed space, the cool air filling your lungs with each slow inhale. The rhythm of your movement, step, breath, step, becomes a gentle meditation, a seamless flow of presence. Halfway down, you pause upon a wider landing. A recessed niche holds a small, iron brazier, its coals long cold, though the faint scent of past fires lingers. Wood smoke, ash, a whisper of warmth now faded into memory. You rest there for several breaths, gaze drifting to the stairs' continuation below. The sound of the rain remains soft, a steady hush that fills the quiet space. Your heartbeat slows further, breath moving easily, body loose and at ease. Resuming your descent, you follow the winding curve of the stair. The air grows cooler still, tinged with the mineral scent of deep stone. The moss beneath your feet yields slightly with each step, the softness a subtle counterpoint to the hard lines of the stone. At last, the stairway opens into a lower lane, narrower, more intimate, bordered by old garden walls. The rain resumes its fuller presence here, the sound swelling once more upon your umbrella, upon the stones. You pause at the stair's end, breath slow, gaze taking in the softly veiled world before you. The descent has left you further calmed, each movement, each breath weaving you more deeply into the fabric of the rain-wrapped village. With a gentle inhale, a long, even exhale, you step forward once more, umbrella steady, pace unhurried, continuing your walk through the night's quiet embrace. Emerging from the stone stairway, you find yourself upon a narrow lane bordered on one side by a high garden wall. The stones are ancient, their surfaces rough with time, veined with moss and trailing ivy that gleams beneath the rain's soft touch. You turn to follow the wall, umbrella tilted to one side, breath moving easily within the cool, damp air. The lane is quiet, save for the steady patter of rain upon stone and leaf, and the gentle murmur of unseen water flowing through hidden channels beneath the village streets. The wall's height lends the space an intimate feeling, as though you have entered a sheltered corridor of the night. The rain here falls more softly, its rhythm filtered through the overhanging branches of trees that grow just beyond the stone barrier. You can hear the gentle rustle of wet leaves stirred by the breeze, their movements delicate and slow. As you walk, your fingertips brush lightly along the wall's surface. The stone is cool beneath your touch, its texture both rough and soothing. Droplets gather upon the ivy's broad leaves, falling at irregular intervals to the cobbles below. Each soft splash a subtle punctuation in the rain's endless song. You allow your gaze to drift upward, following the twisting vines as they climb toward the unseen garden beyond. Here and there, pale flowers bloom within the green, their petals luminous in the lanternlit mist. The sight draws a slow, easy smile to your lips. Breath deepens once more. Inhale the earthy scent of rain-drenched stone and growing things. Exhale a soft release of tension, your body relaxing further with each step. You pause beneath a small wrought iron balcony that juts from the wall's upper edge. Its railing is laced with trailing vines, rainwater beading upon the slender bars. A single lantern hangs from the balcony's underside, its warm glow spilling downward to pool softly upon the wet stones. The light here is gentle, inviting. You stand beneath it for several long breaths, savoring the interplay of glow and shadow, of rain and stillness. The world narrows to this moment, this space, this breath. When you move again, it is with a deep sense of ease. The lane continues, curving gently alongside the garden wall. Your steps are light upon the stones, your breath a steady rhythm in the cool night air. The wall's edge eventually gives way to a wrought iron gate, its bars dark with rain. Beyond it, the path opens once more to the wider lanes of the village. You pause, fingertips grazing the gate's cool surface, a parting touch before stepping onward. Umbrella steady, breath slow, you pass through the opening, the village awaiting. Its rain-silvered streets still rich with quiet wonders yet to be discovered. Beyond the garden wall, the lane widens, revealing a small square bordered by shops and storied facades. Many stand dark now, their windows shuttered, but one low archway draws your eye, its stone lintel carved with faint, weathered letters, Master Butcher and Sons, EST 1742. The archway leads into a narrow, covered lane that once served as a delivery path. Its floor is paved with smooth-worn stones, the walls marked by long centuries of use. You approach with deliberate steps, umbrella lowering as you pass beneath the shelter of the arch. The space within is hushed. The rain becomes a distant sound, muted by stone above and around you. Drops fall in slow rhythm from the seams between ancient stones, their splash soft and irregular upon the worn floor. Your breath moves easily here, the cool, enclosed air rich with the scents of stone, old wood, and faint traces of spice and smoke, echoes of the butcher's long history. The lingering aroma stirs faint memories, though they drift at the edges of awareness, leaving only a soft impression. You walk slowly, each step placed with gentle intent. The passage is narrow, its walls close, drawing your senses inward. Fingers brush the stone lightly, texture cool and grounding beneath your touch. Halfway through, a small alcove opens along one side, a place where workers once rested, perhaps. A worn wooden bench remains there still, its surface dark with moisture, a small pool of rainwater gathered upon the seat. You pause here, standing before the alcove. The subtle shift in space invites a moment of stillness. You rest one hand upon the wall, feeling the cool, solid presence of the stone beneath your palm. Your breath slows further, drawn deep into your lungs, released in long, unhurried streams. The hush here is profound. The muted echoes of the village seem distant, softened by the sheltering walls. You listen to the soft drip of water, to the faint creak of timbers overhead, to the gentle rhythm of your own breath. A deep calm settles over you, the world narrowing once more to this moment, this space, this breath. Time flows without measure here, each heartbeat a quiet anchor in the stillness. When you move again, it is with the same deliberate ease. You lift the umbrella, returning it to your grasp as you near the passage's end. The sound of the rain swells gradually, reasserting its presence as you step from the archway's embrace. The square awaits beyond, rain-silvered and softly glowing beneath distant lanterns. Breath steady, pace unhurried, you continue your walk. A gentle traveler in the heart of the village's rain-wrapped night. And now, as the rain continues to fall, and the quiet streets of the village drift softly into the night, you can let your breath slow, your body grow heavier, and your mind drift gently into rest. There is nothing more you need to do. The village will still be here, the rain will still fall, and you can simply sleep.